Precursor to, sorry about that. Can you hear me? Because it's like blowing my ears out up here. So we're doing this as a precursor to a retirement to a specialty job in the Detective Bureau. Anthony interviewed this week along with several other very qualified candidates, and he rose to the top, and I am looking to promote him to the position of detective. Upon the retirement of the detective he's going to replace, he will fill those shoes and we will not further promote them. Anthony's been an officer with our department for the last 14 years. Very active officer. He's been very active in our training program as a general topics instructor and a firearms instructor. He's currently an SRO at East Senior High School. So he'll be moving this, and he's very competent and capable of what he's doing, and may not be his last stop on the promotional chain here. Comes from a law enforcement family. His sister Maria is sitting here. She used to be one of my dispatchers, is currently a NFTA police officer. His wife and children, all his extended family. He's got a big contingent here. So well loved both inside and outside of the police department. He's well deserving of his promotion. So if you could, I would appreciate you giving Anthony the consideration of promoting him to detective this evening.
Thank you, Chief.
Excuse me, Chief, can I say one more thing? I've known Anthony pretty much his whole life. His parents, his extended family, his grandfather, and I'm going to say he comes from an absolutely wonderful family, hardworking, honest, and the town of West Seneca is very, very lucky to have him.
Move to terminate Anthony Ferrucci as police officer and appoint him to the rank of detective, effective Friday, February 21st, 2020, at an annual salary of $94,291.90, and further authorize supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations. The family is certainly welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but if you'd like to take this time and to leave to celebrate with Detective Ferrucci, that would be completely acceptable.
Thank you.
Okay, well, right now we'll move to the time where the public can comment on any of the communications that we're going to be voting on in the next few minutes. If anyone would like to comment.
Susan Gibbs, 99 Covington. Sorry about that. My first question would be in regards to Mr. Finbar's going to be placed as a town assessor. And he presently has the position of real property appraiser. Does this mean we're also going to hire a real property appraiser to fill his shoes for the next 4 to 5 years?
It does. There's an ad out there. We're looking for a real property appraiser. We haven't had a lot of luck that I'm aware of yet so far. So he's not real property appraiser. He is our acting assessor. That was given to him back in December, I believe.
But isn't there?
So the position we're looking to hire is a real property appraiser technician. So it's not an appraiser, it's appraiser technician, which is a lower salary. We're looking for somebody at $44,000 We consulted with our HR contractor to come up with a reasonable salary. So if you consider that the total of, so previously we shared an assessor with Elma, and then Eric was the appraiser. Their total salaries this year between the two of them was about $123,000. So doing it this way by appointing him as the assessor and then hiring an appraisal technician, their total salary will be $12,000 more, because we're no longer sharing, well, up to now, we're not sharing the assessor with Elma like we were before. That option is still, on our side, is open. Elma just hasn't decided whether they want to continue to share. So if they did share, then we would be saving, well, $30,000 a year. Yeah.
Assuming that we don't go back to sharing, you're putting Eric in this position until 2025? I'm assuming that there isn't some sort of exam for certification, at least for a town assessor, and does he hold that position? I mean, has he passed that exam?
He does, so he's one of two, I believe, in Erie County that holds that. He's already certified through New York State for the assessor position.
He is for the town assessor, not the appraiser.
For the assessor position, he's qualified. He's certified through New York State as an assessor.
And when did that take place, do you know?
I don't know when he took that exam, no.
Last I knew, and this comes from the conversation that I had with Eric, which goes back a few years, he was the real property appraiser and had passed that exam. I was not aware that he had passed the town assessor exam.
Correct. It's Sue, under the real property tax law, requires a term of the assessor to be for 6 years. That's the term that we gave to Candace while she was here. But when she retired, all we're doing is carrying on the remainder of that term with the assessor for Eric Finbar.
What made me ask this question is, if he does have that certification, if he has passed that exam, why are we only giving him the position till 2025?
It's a 6-year term.
By law, it's governed by state law.
Okay, so we would have to then look at him or someone else after that? Is that how
Right,
that
he would
works?
either continue and then have a new 6-year term, or you
Okay,
would readdress it at that time.
okay.
And I will point out that there's actually a time issue with this. So traditionally, that office is 2 people, an assessor and then an appraiser. The appraiser is the one that goes out in the field, and when you've done an addition or something like that to your house, he appraises the new value. There's a deadline. So since the previous assessor was basically on leave or was not available for several months, we haven't been able to go out and appraise all of those changes. If we don't appraise by the end of March or the early April, we will not be able to put those new assessments on our tax rolls. So there is a time crunch to this. So as I said, traditionally it was 2 people plus a secretary. It's been 1 person, just Eric, for many months.
Okay, I only questioned because I didn't realize it was a 6-year term. I thought we were taking it away after the next 5 years. Would the warrant be considered part of the agenda?
We do approve it at the end of the meeting. So is it an agenda item?
Right, I did have a question on the warrant, so I didn't know if I should ask it now or at the end.
Go ahead. You can ask them.
I didn't really look over it real closely, I just real quickly scrolled through it. Dave was chasing me off the computer. But what I did notice was modern recycling for January 10th, 2020, in the amount of $1,565.19. And it was noted that that was for the school district. And I'm wondering why we, the town, would be paying for recycling for the schools.
Sue, there it goes. That was brought up last year, but I don't remember the answer. I think it was for a dumpster.
I can answer that. So the West Seneca School District has their own garbage packer. They go around and take care of the garbage for the schools. They use our account. We kind of piggyback off each other. They get a better rate, and then now they're going to be reimbursing us for that cost each year.
This is recycling.
That's actually for the schools, the
It
garbage.
says modern recycling for the schools, right?
Okay.
So the schools do not have a contract with Modern as we do?
That is correct.
And we are reimbursed? This has happened before and we were reimbursed for it?
I don't know as far as what happened in the past. I'm not sure if it was reimbursed or not, but it's something that I did catch and brought up to the councilman and the supervisor. I did have discussions with the schools and they will be reimbursing us for that.
I'm wondering why it is the school district could not have their own account. In other words, why didn't we use their account instead of taking our own contract?
So that would probably be a school board question. I would assume that they're too small.
We
just a few-
have it on our warrant bill. It's more than just a school district question.
What I'm saying is it's probably some sort of a shared agreement. They get a better rate by piggybacking on our account than we would on their account.
But why would Modern not bill them? Why would they bill us as opposed to them?
That's a good question, and to answer the first part, they do get a better rate, as far as the amount of garbage that they do dispose of, the amount of tonnage that we do, the breakdown is cheaper for them. Not sure why the cost couldn't be billed right to them. I'm guessing because it's under our account. That's why it's split up. You see the $1,500 for January, and then you see, our bills in the tens of thousands. So that at least it's broken down so we know as far as how much to charge them.
But again, if we could piggyback, why didn't the town piggyback on their account?
I'm saying their account is too small. It's too small. They only have a few schools with, they have one sanitation truck that picks up their garbage. That's it. If we piggyback on theirs, the charges would probably be a lot more than what we get for our rate.
Was this ever voted on? I mean, it's really something I've never really noticed, and I've never heard about it.
So I don't know if it was ever voted on, but if we told them that we're no longer gonna honor that, we're all paying for it anyways, because the price would go up for the school, and you're gonna pay for it in your school tax.
Our finance director wasn't able to be here today. We'll get you a definitive answer tomorrow, and we'll tell you, and then plus we'll just give it at the next town board meeting.
I'd also like to know when we are reimbursed for it, the difference in time between when we pay it and when we get reimbursed for it. My next question would be on the Jonathan I can't say the last name, and highway laborer that we have on
Slominski.
new position, replacement, what?
Every time there's movement like this, it's a domino effect. So there was 2 people that retired in January from the highway department. One motor equipment operator and one laborer. When those positions are then filled, it all comes up through sanitation. So instead of filling everything all at once, we're kind of waiting the time through the union agreement, posting the positions, and then filling them. So, Mr. Slominski will be being promoted hopefully to highway to fill a vacancy in highway, and then in the next few weeks there'll be a sanitation promotion to fill his driving vacancy.
Okay.
So I believe Mr. Slominski's been with us at least 6 years, maybe 7 years now.
The question was, because it didn't state, was it a new position or was it a replacement? That was the only, I didn't know if we had created a new position.
Just real quick to touch base on this, there's never any, new position per se per highway. The only new position would be sanitation laborer, which is almost like the entry level position for the highway department.
And then my last question on the agenda is item number 7, the police department rules and regulations. I did check, and I did not check today, but I did yesterday, there was nothing attached. So I'm wondering what exactly are these rules and regulations that are on the agenda?
They are an adoption of disciplinary policy on behalf of the town. They've been in effect since 1968. And basically, whenever there's a major change in the town board gets to see them and then they approve them with any suggestions going forward. So it's policy, it's nothing else.
Okay, but would it be something that a resident would be able to look at? And if so, why were they not attached?
Traditionally, they are not viewable by the public because it's part of the disciplinary personnel process of the town. And the personnel issues under 50A, the policemen are not disclosed to the public.
Okay, so the rules only apply to, the rules apply to what exactly? Just says rules and regulations.
They apply to the conduct of the policemen above and beyond any other employees in the town. It's a stricter disciplinary scale. It also has to do with their permissions on their attire, their grooming standards.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward thing that there's no major changes in there. You know, it limits. It's a stricter limit on their behavior than for any other employees within the town.
Okay. I appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening, Dave Kims. On number 8, the resignation of the police officer, was that a choice he was given, or was that just his reaction?
That was something that was litigated by the district attorney's office, and I'm not at liberty to discuss it any further than that.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Hanley was gonna read his brief.
Thank you, Supervisor. Honorable Town Board, kindly move to grant Eric Finbar a leave of absence from a civil service position of real property appraiser in accordance with 14.1 of the White Collar Agreement, effective February 20th, 2020 through February 19th, 2021, and authorize the supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. I need a second. On a question?
I'll just note that the white collar as well as the blue collar contract require this leave of absence when a union member takes another position in the town. The first year is you have to, according to the agreement, we have to give a leave of absence.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Against? Motion passed. Honorable Town Board, kindly move to appoint Eric Finbar as Town of West Seneca Assessor full-time effective February 20th, 2020 to fill the unexpired term through September 30th, 2025 at an annual rate of $91,138 and authorize the supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel.
Second.
On a question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Honorable Town Board, please move that the title Town Assessor be included with a list of town department heads, elected or appointed officials, and certain other full-time employees not covered by contract provisions between the town and Blue and White Collar, CSEA, or the West Seneca PBA be granted extended benefits including Blue Shield or equivalent costs, as well as other health and welfare fund related benefits in accordance with the CSEA White Collar contract or equivalent.
Second.
On a question?
Yeah, I'll just note that people may remember back in the first meeting in January, the organization meeting, we gave benefits to some people who are not in the union and who are appointed, such as the attorney, the finance director, the highway department secretary, etc. So this is simply, this is an appointed position. Eric is no longer going to be in the union, so and covered by the union contract. So this gives him the benefits that virtually every full-time employee enjoys.
That's correct, Supervisor. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion passed.
Thank you.
I believe Eric is here tonight.
Yes.
Stand up for a moment.
Moving right along from Steve Tanner, our town engineer, moved to approve his attendance at the Western New York Stormwater Conference and Trade Show on March 31st, 2020 at the Buffalo Niagara Convention Center. This will also be attended by Ron File, Mark Hummel, and Eric Labrie. It'll be attended by those three people, not by Steve. At a cost of $90 a person, the conference will include professionals speaking on topics related to green infrastructure, stormwater management, and MS4 program implementation. The latest technologies in stormwater management, equipment, and design will be displayed by exhibitors.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 5. Move to terminate Jonathan Slominski as sanitation motor equipment operator and appoint him as highway laborer, Group 1, Step 3, at a rate of $24.91 an hour, effective February 21st, 2020. Jonathan Slominski is being promoted to highway laborer to fill a vacancy from a retirement. Mr. Slominski has a good work ethic and holds a New York State CDL Class B license. Over the course of his employment, he has made great strides to better himself. It is my recommendation that he will make a great highway laborer. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Jonathan here?
Jonathan is here.
And as far as that, the memo, the attachment, we're trying to put more information in these memos, so it's not simply promotion, but we talk a little bit about the person, is their qualifications, and what position they're holding. Number 6, move to accept the resignation of Carl Spencer from the West Seneca Environmental Commission and the West Seneca Ethics Board. Mr. Spencer's resignation has been filed with the town clerk's office. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
On the question, Supervisor, I suppose we'll probably be looking for somebody to fill these 2 vacancies.
Yes. And I would imagine we're gonna do the same process we did to fill positions earlier in the year. So we have some resumes, but we're always open for more resumes.
Can we post that maybe on the town website, Facebook pages, etc.?
Absolutely. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. From Chief Dens, Chief of Police, move to accept New York State, or per New York State Division of Criminal Justice Systems accreditation standards and pursuant to provisions of Article 10, Section 154 of Town Law of the State of New York, we routinely ask for the town board to formally adopt the rules and regulations concerning the administration, conduct and disciplinary standards of the police department of the town of West Seneca when there is a change on the governing board. Move that we formally adopt the 2020 rules and regulations for the town of West Seneca Police Department so the chief can distribute the approved version to employees at their upcoming in-service training sessions scheduled to start at the end of the month.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, from Chief of Police, move to accept the attached resignation of Derek Vasquez as police officer effective February 6, 2020, and authorize supervisor to sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 9, from the Director of Finance, resolution for JCAP Grant 2020. Whereas the town received an award letter from the New York State Office of Justice Court stating that they were to be reimbursed for the purchase of computer hardware in the amount of $3,137.13, also known as the JCAP grant. Whereas the cash received from this grant will be recognized as revenue in the general fund as general government state aid. Now therefore it's resolved that the town board does hereby authorize the budget amendment to increase general government state aid by $3,137.13 for the receipt of the JCAP grant revenue and to correspondingly increase the town justice equipment purchases state aid for the same amount. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
Yeah, on the question, this JCAP grant is administered through the courts themselves. Maureen Brownsy, there was a question on the reorg about her stipend, her $1,500 stipend. Maureen takes care of issues like this for the town, not our, Connie Minor, she doesn't do these, but our own courts take care of issues like this.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, also from our finance director, we have updated our investment policy, and it is attached to, I'm not gonna read it, so I'll just move to adopt the attached written investment policy updated as of February 20th, 2020. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 11, from our recreation supervisor, Lauren Massett, move to change the status of Alexa Nigro, youth service coordinator, from part-time to part-time seasonal effective May 17th, 2020, ending September 5th, 2020. Part-time seasonal allows a regular part-time employee to work a maximum of 35 hours a week for up to 5 months a year. Regular part-time employees work a maximum of 19 hours a week. Alexa will be a part-time seasonal for 17 weeks. Also authorize supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
On the question, Alexa's been with us for quite a few years, and I believe this is a replacement for Emily Baker, who will not be coming back for this year.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 12, also from the Recreation Supervisor Massett, move to allow the supervisor to execute the necessary documents to enter an agreement with Sirens Football Club and ensure Western New York Amateur Soccer Association, U.S. Adult Soccer Association, Inc., its members, national affiliates, leagues, and teams for use of the West Seneca Soccer Complex. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, Ms. Massett, would you like to just give a brief description of what this will be?
So this agreement, as well as the next agreement with BDSL, are for single-use soccer field rentals, so it's $100 per each use. Single uses are defined as scrimmages, games, or practices.
Thank you, and also add that we are very aware of the burdens that are sometimes placed on residents who live near the soccer complex. Not for something like this is single use, but for the large tournaments that go on. And we are going to be gradually taking steps to make sure that it's not, doesn't have such an impact on the local neighbors. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. From Lauren Massett, Recreation Supervisor, move to allow the supervisor to execute the necessary documents to enter into an agreement with Buffalo and District Soccer League and ensure the Western New York Amateur Soccer Association, U.S. Adult Soccer Association, Inc., its members, national affiliates, leagues, and teams for the use of West Seneca Soccer Complex. For a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Also also from the recreation supervisor, move to allow the supervisor to execute the necessary documents to enter into an agreement with the West Seneca Fire District Number 4, East Seneca, located at 100 Line Road, West Seneca, New York, for the use of the town of West Seneca ball diamonds during the 2020 season. Do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move to accept the clerk's report, clerk's report and receiver of taxes report for January 2020.
Second.
On the question? Ms. Kobler, would you like to just briefly just say what the significance of these is?
I don't really have
Okay.
The town clerk's report is what we have taken in, for the entire month, as far as marriages, building permits, normal town clerk stuff. And then, the tax report is what we took in for taxes from January until, January 31st. We have paid the warrant for the town in full to the supervisor. We did turn over the January bank interest to him, and to date, we are at 57 million we have taken in on the town and county taxes. And the warrant for the town and county is 62,598,000, so we're getting there. And I do have one more thing. I do wanna thank, the staff of the town clerk's office, who really worked, they really work hard at this time of the year. And we work with the assessor's office too, and hand in hand, we get it done. And I couldn't do it. I could not do it without them.
Thank you. Sorry for putting you on the spot.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move to accept the building report from the code enforcement officer Jeffrey Sheever for the month, building and plumbing reports for the month of January 2020. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Let's move to accept the warrant.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we're gonna work to get you a little more detail about the warrant too, but it is attached, but it can be kind of complicated when you look at it online. I don't see any old business. Why don't we go, we'll do the, just reports from the table, and then we'll have the issues of the, or no, I guess we issue the public funds before that, so according to the agenda. So are there any issues that the public would like to bring up? Please.
Thank you. Could you explain to me who is the dog warden, when's he available, what kind of schedule he has? So many people now at 6 in the morning listening to the dogs bark in my neighborhood don't know where to call. Sometimes it's the police station, sometimes it's someone else that works in town. There doesn't seem to be a particular number, and I mean, I've gone through that there too. There's, you know, by 6 in the morning, there's barking behind me. When you call, the neighbor knows who calls, but people are afraid to call, so they get in trouble. But sometimes there's dogs at 6 in the morning barking for 45 minutes. But nobody seems to know who's the dog warden, and I know when I had the issues, because I take care of someone else's house, it would be like, well, we'll let the police know, or call the police station. There doesn't seem, and I say, well, is he somewhere in a building that we can go and see? That didn't seem to be. It just seemed that he was out and around and everyone else was taking care of it, and there's no real system.
Yes, no, we have an answer in the highway superintendent.
I'd be more than happy to talk to you after, but you can always
Okay.
call the highway department and leave a message, even if it's after hours. I'm very responsive, I'll get back to you. If there's an issue, we'll take care of it.
Well, is it the highway department that is the dog warden?
Yeah, everything's kind of under one umbrella, correct? So you can.
How many are there? I mean, how many people?
There's myself, and then there's two work on a day-to-day basis that handle the actual complaints and everything. Go kind of knock on the doors and do the investigations and also, you know, roadkill and things like that. But if you have an actual issue, you can talk to me and, you know, I'll handle it and forward the request to
Well,
one of our.
people are so
reporters.
sensitive because they figure the neighbor knows, and a couple doors down, when somebody called, you could see the dog for 45 minutes on their back porch while they were in the kitchen cooking, and he's barking for 45 minutes. Well, people are kind of afraid to do it because then
Sure.
there's retaliation. But nobody seemed to say, you know, Joe Smith is the dog warden. It's kind of passed around all the time. And then when they say, well, okay, there's nobody here now, call the police station, it's not what people want to do, but
No, anytime you have an issue, even, you know, after hours is normally called dispatch, but even if you call the highway department, 674-4850.
But see, nobody
you can do-
knows that, you know, I mean, I know because you've told me,
Correct.
and I know, you know, but people think there's a dog warden in town.
We can update the website and kind of make it a little bit more visible for contact information and things like that. It's always a work in progress to improve things, so.
Of course, we have a walking path at the end of the street, but that's not the ones that bark, it's the ones that are tied up in the yards and there for hours at a time. But people say, well, where's the dog warden, what's his phone number, and nobody seems to know. We don't really have a particular person, it kind of gets passed around. But, and these things, I know I've mentioned before, but I'm gonna mention them once more for my neighborhood. The bar that failed on the corner there, some of their garbage has been there since it closed. There's an old recliner out there and garbage cans and that. And then the property in front of it just went up for sale, and they put a for sale sign, so they took the other one, threw it on the ground and left. So that makes the corner pretty messy and not a very nice entrance to the town. So I don't know why he's not cleaning that up, and I can't imagine why they put up one sign, threw the other one on the ground and left.
Well, we'll send code enforcement out there tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, thanks. And then, as you come down where Cash for Cans is, next door, there's two garbage totes out, up close to the street. They're for Cash for Cans, but they're on the next property, which has been empty for 3 years, filled with junk, paper on the windows. And I thought the guy was retiring, so I didn't say much before because it's empty and it just collects garbage. And those totes should not be the first thing you see when you come into that neighborhood. And then getting onto the thruway, and again the 400 there, that diamond thing that you get on, that triangle, it's a mess. And I know people laugh when I say it, but the orange bag has been on there 14 months now. Some of it's blown off, the curbs are broken on it, it's full, and I know that it's the county, and you always get the answer, it's the county. But it's up for the town to get after the county to do it, you know? It's really is a mess. And then, I know when you mentioned Bellwood School the other day to me, Bellwood School is not a bad-looking building, and it's historical in town. I'm just wondering if they can't be forced to, on the side of the building where they knocked everything down, there's 3 stories, each with a different big bright painted color, that if they can't be asked to repair that, not, I don't mean put a new sign on the building, I mean paint all 3 floors one color, and it would be, you know, much nicer. And that would clean up that area coming into there. And then along the side of the road going out, the ruts are right out into the street. And they've called for years, the people along that side, but the ruts are big, and somebody's gonna get hurt trying to move around and get away from them. So if that could be looked at. But, so let me know about the dog warden, okay?
On that issue, on our website, just so you know, under departments and services,
Mhm.
if you click on public safety, there's the dog control officer information on that. It's a drop-down box from there, and it has a phone number.
All right, I mean, even if it's there, people don't understand what they're supposed to do. They're fearful of doing it because it's their neighbor. I mean, I've got one guy, you know, now that it's getting lighter in the morning, you're starting to hear them at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and, you know, for half an hour. But even if there's something in the paper, like, you know, it's gonna be a crackdown and, you know, don't have your dogs out there more than 10 minutes at that time of the day. But, okay, thank you.
Mary Lou,
Yes.
as far as the retaliation, I can assure you that if you call our code enforcement, engineering, the police department, or the highway department, or any member of the town board, We don't share your name when you, if there's an issue, I don't wanna use the word complaint,
Right,
if there's an
yeah.
issue, we don't share your name as who the call came from.
Well, the guy about 3-4 doors away from me had a real problem with the people behind him on the next street because they figured he called. Well, he should have called. Their dog's out there. I mean, you can see him cooking inside while the dog's out on the porch for half an hour. So he said, I'll never call again, and whatever.
Yeah, our code does say if the dog's barking for more than 30 minutes continuously, so.
I mean, 30 minutes, so at 6:30 in the morning is allowed. But just
I
that,
agree.
if something could be in the paper once in a while, like that, you're looking at the people who are leaving their dogs out early and late, and, okay, thank you.
Susan Kim's 99 Covington. You just mentioned complaints to code, any complaints to any department. We do have an issue with code enforcement when they receive complaints and they pass on the name of the person that did the complaining because they're not a member of code enforcement. In other words, if a neighbor calls and says there's a problem and then a letter is sent out, the person calls and then they tell them who it was that complained.
See what code enforcement does, and I'll use Covington because I'm your neighbor too. If there was a complaint on Covington for my house, they do the whole street. And that way, all the people, if anybody's leaving their totes out front, I'll use that for example, if somebody's parking on their lawn, everybody gets a letter that's violating one of the codes. So if you called on me specific, I don't just get a letter, they will canvass the whole street to make it invisible as far as who could have called or what the issues are, so.
But you may have been the person that had the problem with the totes, maybe leaving them out, not putting them back, and someone called and complained. And then you call and say, hey, you sent me a letter because of these totes, how come? And then they would tell you who filed that complaint. That does go on, that has gone on, that should not go on, and you know that, Bill.
I don't know of any case where they ever shared a name, they don't even share names with me.
Yeah, and I'll talk to them and make sure that, I think we all agree with you that they should not do that.
I can
And
give
we'll talk to them again.
So I'm looking at that we sold a few totes and we received $140 for it. That brought to mind the neighborhood that was going to need totes because we were going to them. So I don't know if we purchased those totes.
Those totes were purchased. We actually took delivery on them the other day, and all the communities that needed recycling and garbage totes have received them.
And how will those be paid for?
I think we already discussed that when we went through that. We moved money from the contingency fund to pay for those totes because they were not budgeted for it.
They piggybacked on a bid, I believe, out of Miami.
Oh,
So,
yeah, was that where your initial
Well,
question
what I'm
was?
wondering is why is it the residents are not paying for the totes as we and the other districts pay for our own totes through a bond?
Well, but when you have a bond, you're paying for it for the period of the bond, so you're eventually paying for it. I mean, the taxes are eventually paying for it. So this amount is too small to bond, and so it was all paid in 1 year. But, whether you pay through a bond over a period of years or you pay in the same year, the taxpayers are still paying. And the highway superintendent was exactly right. It was paid for out of a contingency line because it was not budgeted in the budget.
And I understand that, but in my district, we're in a district where there were totes bought and there's a bond. That bond is paid back. That is passed on to me on my taxes, correct?
correct, and their assessment has been changed also and I'm sure.
Well, the assessment is totally different, Bill, and you know that. The totes are an individual item. Whether you change their assessments, and those were going to be done for another totally different reason.
So I'm not sure if I understand your question. They're paying for their totes just like we paid for our totes.
Ours were paid through a bond or what? I mean, I'm trying to understand how it is that they're paying back the money.
Yes, it was, I believe it was just part before I got on the board, but there was a bond back then to purchase totes for the townwide, 35,000 totes or 45,000.
For a 30-year bond, which would then be tacked on to everyone's tax bill. These people were not involved in that. So now we've given them totes, we've taken money out of the town's contingency fund. Will they be paying for those totes as we are paying for ours?
Well, I mean, in the bond is being paid for by everybody in town. And continues, so, the interest, I mean, the principal interest, you're right. Well, you could try to look at it like, because their taxes were lower, they weren't paying for the bond at that time, but it doesn't really work that way. I mean, everything's added up into a big lump, so you could, I would argue that they were paying for that bond. And then it's true that since that's tax money, is coming from everybody in the town, the $25,000 that paid for those. But I mean, either way, everybody in town is paying for all of the totes. That's the way I look at it anyways.
The way I understood it was when we did take the bond, that these neighborhoods that were not using those services were not being billed for that.
So I will get your answer for you, but I am pretty sure that your general town tax pays for the sanitation. So the totes that we pay for, they were paying for them at the same time. The same as the totes that they just purchased, we're probably paying for those. Those are under your general town tax, not your highway tax.
Bill, we took a